Welcome to This Week in MMA, brought to you by Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levi, and I want to wish you all a very happy new year. We got a lot of news to get into, so let's not waste any time and let's get right down to business. This Week in MMA is your home for real news, a touch of sarcasm, and calling out the nonsense in the fight world. Today's target, Jake Shields. Jake's back in the news, not for his mediocre trash talk, but because he's officially been demonetized on X. Why? Because spreading vile bigotry and hateful lies is apparently not a great business model. Who knew?
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser!
Now, Jake loves to pretend he's some moral authority, but let's not forget, this is the same guy whose fight against Ed Herman was overturned to a no contest because he tested positive for a banned substance. Translation, Jake's history with honesty and ethics is shakier than his striking game. It's wild that Shields ever thought his platform for hate would last. If you're gonna run your mouth, Jake, at least make it entertaining. Instead, it's just the same regurgitated nonsense wrapped in self-righteousness. To sum it up, Jake Shields demonetized for being a hateful bigot, still clinging to a career as irrelevant as his Twitter takes. Next time, maybe work on spreading love instead of lies. That's all for this week's dose of MMA reality checks. Stay tuned for more next week. And remember, don't be a bigot. At UFC 311 in Los Angeles, California, UFC Hall of Famer Khabib Nurmagomedov will actually be cornering 3 fighters on the event. On the very first fight of the night, he'll be in the corner of Tagir Ulanbekov in a flyweight bout against Clayton Carpenter. Then, fast forward to the co-main event, he'll also be in the corner for Umar Nurmagomedov in his title fight against current reigning bantamweight champion Merab Dvalishvili. And lastly, the great Khabib will also be in the corner of Islam Makhachev in the main event rematch against Arman Tsarukyan. This is not the first time that the great Khabib has done this. In fact, he's done it twice before. At UFC 267, Khabib cornered Tagir Ulanbekov, Zubaira Tukhugov, and Bilal Muhammad. And at UFC 280, Khabib went out there and cornered Abubakar Nurmagomedov, Bilal Muhammad, and Islam Makhachev again. So Khabib's used to this. And in all these cases, all of Khabib's guys have won. So let's see if the trend continues at UFC 311. And speaking of UFC 311, UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev is going to put his belt on the line in a main event rematch against Arman Tsarukyan. The first time these two competed, it was an incredible, thrilling 3-round scramble fest. Now fast forward to 2025, these guys are meeting in a main event for a title. Some footage recently came out of Islam Makhachev grappling with his manager Ali Abdelaziz, and I want to show you guys because look how amazing Islam Makhachev is on the ground. Check this out. So Islam's on the top, isolates the wrist, stepping over. Oh, looks like he's about to set up an armbar, but watch this right here. This is very sneaky. He's putting an insane amount of pressure. Ooh, that triangle right there, that puts an insane amount of pressure on not only the bicep of his opponent, but also the forearm. So in this case, he got a tap before he even got the armbar. So it's like, pick your poison, you know, when you're grappling with this guy. I mean, watch this again. This is truly sensational grappling by the UFC lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev, man. And for all my grapplers out there, would you consider this more of a bicep slicer right here? You know, because it's also pressure on the forearm, but man, he's so nasty with it. And I cannot wait for his main event rematch with Arman Tsarukyan. UFC middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis, one of the best trash talkers in the entire sport, recently posted a picture of him wrestling with a shark. And the comments got pretty funny. Check this out. So he posts the picture with the shark, and someone in the comment said, don't kiss it on the mouth, you know, because you know about that tradition that, I don't know if it's a South African thing, but Dricus kisses his coach on the mouth. Hey, Dricus has a very good looking girlfriend, so I'm not questioning anything, but yeah, that's just what they do over there. So someone was like, don't kiss it on the mouth. And Dricus responded, he said, no way, that's what Khamzat tried, and look how that turned out. To which Khamzat responded, 2 dead fish in 1 photo. Man, it does not matter who Dricus du Plessis fights. All his back and forths are incredible. And the fact that this guy made Sean Strickland cry, he made Israel Adesanya cry, now he's rematching Sean Strickland. If he can get past that and we can get this Khamzat Chimaev fight going, either way, whether Khamzat fights Dricus or Khamzat fights Strickland, the buildup is going to be intense, but I have a feeling that Khamzat and Dricus would be all out chaos. And not to mention one of the best fights that the UFC can make in 2025. And speaking of Khamzat Chimaev, some footage of him grappling with former UFC middleweight champion Luke Rockhold recently came out. And look how damn skilled Khamzat is on the mat. So Khamzat starting on bottom, hooks a leg, immediately goes knee bar with it. Luke Rockhold spins out. And man, you just see how comfortable Khamzat Chimaev is on the mat there. I know this isn't a full roll. This is just highlights. Look at that butterfly game, still attacking the legs. I mean, this guy is just relentless. And Luke Rockhold, one thing about him is he's known for insane top control. I haven't seen anyone pass his guard, let alone handle him like this. And again, to put it in perspective, look, now he's trying to set up his darts. Good on Luke Rockhold going flat here. That's how you defend the darts. What you do not want to do is get on your side. You want to avoid being on your side at all costs. Either be flat on your back or flat on your stomach. So good on Rockhold there. But what I was going to say is that Rockhold was known for his dominating top control. And Khamzat, not only did he start the round on bottom, he works his way on top. And look at this absolute domination and this pressure. Gets the pin, gets both hooks in. He's just absolutely ragdolling him, man. Arm triangle coming up. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's just the definition of smash. And yeah, I haven't seen Luke Rockhold get dominated like that ever on the mat. I know it's a training session. I know it's not a fight, but look, now he's going to break open the arm bar. Luke tries to step on top. Let's see if he gets it. Similar to that Islam arm bar we were talking about earlier. Yep, he got it. He tapped him out. I mean, dude, Khamzat Chimaev is ridiculous with it. And let Sean and Dricus settle their differences, and Khamzat will be waiting in the wings for the winner. The GOAT, Jon Jones, recently came out and said that he will not do any appearances for less than 100K. And respect to you for that, Jon. You've earned not having to leave your house for less than 100K. Here's what he had to say.
Dana White, my boss, he told me a long time ago, he was like, John, money will never be your issue. Because I never want you to worry about money. It will never be your issue. It would always come to you for the rest of your life. And it seems like the less I think about money, the more it comes to me. It just starts falling in my hands these days. And I'm grateful for it. I make really good money doing really, really silly things. You know, show up to a party for half an hour, $100,000. You know, sign a few items, $100,000. You know, I barely leave my house for anything less than $100,000 these days, and it just comes from left and right. I'm grateful for it.
Jon, you're the greatest of all time. You've earned that. I mean, shit, I'd like you to get more than that even, but maybe consider doing an interview with Half the Battle for free. Everyone else, pay this man 100K minimum. UFC light heavyweight champion and former UFC middleweight champion Alex Poatan Pereira recently revealed that he will not be fighting Magomed Ankalaev next. Here's what Alex had to say. So Poatan tweeted, "It won't be Ankalaev." Simply put, and he put a little crying emoji there. And I'm curious who it will be. You know, there were rumors about Khamzat possibly moving up to 205 to fight Poatan, but at the same time, Khamzat could also be waiting in the wings to fight the winner of Dricus and Sean, like we already mentioned. So if it's not Khamzat and it's not Ankalaev, who could it be? Well, Jamahal Hill and Jiri Prochazka are fighting in a featured bout at UFC 311 next week. The winner of that, if they win in impressive fashion, more likely Hill than anything, because Yuri's already lost to Poatan twice. But Jamahal, listen, it does not matter what you think about Jamahal. The fact is that people cannot keep Jamahal out of their mouth. Love him or hate him, you're going to want to watch him, whether you want to watch him win or lose. And I would not be surprised if Jamahal got a rematch with Alex, if, contingent of course, if he's able to get past Jiri in impressive fashion. Now, what do y'all think about Ankalaev getting stiffed here? Is talk cheap and Ankalaev actually is getting the title shot and Poatan's just playing, you know, a little bit of mental chess with him? Or is he actually not trying to give him the shot? Now, a lot of fans seem to forget that Ankalaev already got his title shot, and it was against Jan Blachowicz, who was around 40 years old at the time. Jan Blachowicz kicks this man's leg off for the first 3 rounds. Now, Ankalaev made the championship adjustments in the 4th and 5th round, was able to land his takedowns and at least salvage a draw. But I feel like people forget that that fight even happened. They almost act like it didn't happen, and they act like Ankalaev's never lost a fight before. He's been undefeated since, you know, the Exodus. Why isn't this guy getting his title shot? It's like, he did get a title shot, and I max bet him in that title shot. And what happened? So I'm not against this man getting a title shot, but people need to slow their roll and acknowledge the history that this man's already fought for a belt and he didn't exactly look like a champion doing it. So I hope the UFC do the right thing here, and whoever's the most deserving contender for Poatan should get the title shot next. And regarding those rumors of Khamzat Chimaev moving up to 205, allegedly, to fight Poatan, former UFC middleweight champion and former opponent of Khamzat Chimaev, Robert Whittaker, chimed in on the situation. Here's what he said.
Chimaev, easily. Not easily. Chimaev, though. I don't know, unless like the heavyweight strength changes, there's a dynamic that Chimaev can't take. Chimaev's will get the takedown. And then he's good at what he does. He plays into his strength. But let's say, hypothetically, like Chimaev slows down, gasses a little bit. Yeah. Pereira won't. He can strike asleep, dead tired. Dude's been doing it his whole life. He'll kill Chimaev in a stand-up. It won't be like that Usman-Chimaev fight where Usman was kind of outboxing him a little bit at that period when Chimaev got tired. Yeah. It'll be a slaughter.
Let me know what y'all think about Robert Whittaker's analysis of a potential Khamzat versus Poatan fight. And also let me know, would you prefer to see Khamzat move up to 205 pounds to fight Alex Pereira, or do you think he should wait for that middleweight title shot against the winner of Dricus versus Sean Strickland? And on the topic of Alex Poatan Pereira, he recently went to South Korea, did some boxing over there. Check out the footage that came out. So already in situations like this, you got to understand that Alex Pereira is in kind of a weird spot because you don't want to knock out these dudes that, you know, I don't know if this guy's like a professional boxer over in Korea or what the deal is, but you don't want to just go over there and just start sleeping dudes with your left hook, your nuclear left hook that slept multiple UFC champions. But at the same time, you don't want to let these guys get a false sense of security and make them feel like they can just hit you in the face with free shots either. Props to Alex for being nice to that guy. And it's just cool to see a traveling champion, you know, at Alex's age, what, 37, 38 years old. He's not relying on the fact that he's a former multiple-time Glory champion, a two-division UFC champion. This guy is still traveling, gaining knowledge, and trying to evolve his game. So salute to you, Poatan. Friend of Half the Battle and one of the best news sources in MMA, Big Marcel, recently reported that a lightweight bout between Fares Ziam and Mike Davis is slated to go down at UFC Saudi Arabia on February 1st. Now, this is an amazing fight because everybody knows that Mike Davis had the best fight in Contender Series history against Sodiq Yusuff, and this guy has insane physical attributes and talent. But on the other side with Fares Ziam, we've seen him in the UFC since he was just a kid. He's evolving and making huge leaps every single fight. Just got his first UFC knockout against Matt Frivola, and Ziam is looking better than ever. Only one of these guys can hit the top 15. I say only one of these guys. Honestly, I can see both these guys in the top 15 by this time next year, but only one of them will be in the top 15 next month. So let's find out and see. So I cannot wait to see what happens between Fares Ziam and Mike Davis. Former UFC bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley recently announced that he's taking a social media hiatus. In a recent post on Instagram, he stated, quote, 2025, I am deleting all my social medias off my phone until my next fight. My team will be running my socials. We will still make content, but I just need a detox from my phone. Going to focus on reaching my full potential as an athlete and a father. So honestly, I respect that. The fact that anyone's willing to do things to improve their lives. And in his case, he mentions being an athlete, being a father. And honestly, I think all of us need a social media cleanse from time to time. That being said, he never officially, you know, made any excuses saying, oh, that's why I lost the fight or that's why I lost the belt. I'm glad he's not making those excuses. But in case he starts to in the future, you'll have to remind him that, hey, buddy, you won and defended the belt while being on social media the whole time. So who knows if that's really the problem, or was Merab just a terrible matchup for you, man? But then again, he's not directly blaming that or making that an excuse for his loss. So regardless, respect to Sean O'Malley. You got to do what's best for you at the end of the day because these guys are human beings, which people often forget. So respect Sean O'Malley for that. And speaking of Sean O'Malley, he recently did to Japan and did a meet and greet, and a fan actually asked O'Malley to kick him in the butt. Check it out. It's pretty funny. So similar to Poatan, O'Malley's a nice guy. You know, you don't want to hurt the fans or anything like that, but check this out. Tee him up a little bit. And here we go. Sorry, that reaction is too good. Hold on. All right, one more time. Just kidding. Yo, that dude's reaction is great. And again, props to O'Malley being a good sport. You know, we're not trying to hurt these guys. You know, these guys are fans of the sport. They just want to learn more. They want to know what it's like to be kicked by a former UFC champion. So shout out O'Malley for giving this fan that experience. In the co-main event at UFC 311, UFC bantamweight champion Merab Dvalishvili is going to put his belt on the line against the undefeated phenom Umar Nurmagomedov. Now, as you guys know, the beef between these two guys is as real as it gets. They can't stand each other. I've never seen Merab so emotional in the lead up to a fight before. Now, recently, Merab got denied entrance to the UFC PI while Umar was training there. Merab posted this video. Check out what he had to say.
I'm here in front of UFC PI and security don't let me go in because they said Umar Nurmagomedov is inside and they are protecting him. Don't worry, guys. I'm not going to smash him before the fight. But January 18 is different story. I'm not able to go in UFC PI because I was supposed to get treatments for my injury. I was supposed to sign some cards. I was supposed to eat lunch with my friends. What the heck? I'm gonna smash this guy because of all the disrespect, all the lies he was saying. You better show up, Umar. Okay, today you will be protected. Don't worry, I'm not gonna punch you before the fight. But January 18, no one will protect you.
My only concern about this Umar versus Merab fight is that oftentimes when you have this kind of animosity, this kind of hatred, the fights just don't deliver. Now, I'm going to name you two examples where the fights didn't deliver, and I'm going to name you one example where it did. Two examples where fights with insane buildups did not deliver are Rampage versus Rashad at UFC 114. I was so disappointed, man. I mean, the season of The Ultimate Fighter that those two had, the back and forths, like, I could not wait for that fight, and it just didn't deliver. And then the other one was more recently between Manel Kape and Makhachev. You know, these two had gone into multiple street fights, backstage at the UFC PI, sucker punches, the whole bit. They had to be secure. They had to be separated at the ceremonial weigh-ins. But then when it came to fight night, they stared at each other for 3 straight rounds. It was like, wait, I thought y'all hated each other. And then they hugged after the fight. It was like, oh my God, man. Like, did we just get bamboozled? And then Makhachev subsequently got released from the UFC. But let me name you one example where an insane buildup led to an amazing fight. And that was actually my 2024 Half the Battle fight of the year between Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya. Those two were going back and forth for years. And then the fight was just an incredible back and forth fight of the night with all kinds of momentum shifts and an epic finish to cap it off. So, hey, hopefully this is like Dricus versus Izzy and not like Rampage versus Rashad or Makhachev versus Kape. In more UFC 311 news, Jiri Prochazka recently posted more footage of his unorthodox training methods. Now, we've become very accustomed to this, whether it's him camping out in a dark room for a month straight or summoning all kinds of things. Whatever Jiri does, check out the latest addition to the unorthodox training methods of former UFC light heavyweight champion, Jiri Prochazka. Yeah, so this dude's on his treadmill, throwing back elbows, walking backwards, uppercuts, managing his distance, straight punches, the whole bit. And I mean, he's just a madman. You know, you got to love Jiri and the kind of stuff that he brings to the table. He's just different. There's only one Jiri. He's truly one of one. And his showdown with Jamahal Hill, someone's hitting the deck. That's just the bottom line. There's no two ways about it. Someone is going to sleep in that fight. Now, Jiri's opponent, the former UFC light heavyweight champion, Jamahal Hill, seemed as if he knew exactly what the task is at UFC 311. In a recent interview with his local news in West Michigan, Jamahal Hill shared his thoughts on the upcoming fight with Jiri Prochazka. Here's what he had to say.
I have to be on point because he's a very durable guy. He's a durable guy. He's tough. He has some power. And just that, yeah, I think the biggest thing, his biggest attribute is his toughness. You know, he's able to take some punishment. He's able to take some damage. He works. You can tell he puts in the work. So he has a good gas tank to last through that and still be dangerous even later in a fight after you get tired and you're not so as on point as you were at the beginning of the fight. And that's something that I have to be prepared for, locked in, and make sure that don't happen.
Sounds like Jamahal Hill knows exactly what the task is. And that being said, my biggest takeaway is these two are going to stand and bang until one man falls. Do not blink when Jamahal Hill and Jiri Prochazka clash at UFC 311 next week. The UFC recently announced their March 1st main event in the flyweight division, a title eliminator between Brandon Royval and Manel Kape. That's about as good as it gets for a title eliminator. Obviously, Brandon Royval has lost to Pantoja twice, but he's picked himself up in impressive fashion, getting back-to-back wins over Brandon Moreno and Tatsuro Taira. And Kape has always been one of the most talented fighters in the division, just missing his elusive title shot. If he beats Brandon Royval, he will get that title shot. Here's what Kape had to say about the fight. So before the fight officially got announced, MMA Fighting put out something that said, Brandon Royval reveals post-fight conversation with Alexandre Pantoja after UFC 310. He said, "You're next." And Manel Kape quote tweeted that and wrote, "He has to be quiet. He won't fight for the belt. It will be with me. He will do what we are telling him to do. March 1st, main event." Well, turns out Manel Kape was right, because March 1st in the main event in Vegas, you're going to get Manel Kape versus Brandon Royval. And assuming the winner wins how these guys usually win, which is in impressive fashion, they're going to fight Pantoja later on this year. And I cannot wait to see how that goes down. In more UFC 311 news, UFC lightweight Beneil Dariush hinted at a possible retirement depending on how things go with his upcoming lightweight clash against Renato Money Moicano. Here's what Benny had to say.
I don't know exactly when I'm going to retire. It's not one of those things where I'm going to have be able to pinpoint to, hey, I'm 36, I'm done, or I'm 37, I'm done. It's really two things. It's a desire to fight. Do I have the desire? And then the second part, which is just as important, do I have the ability? So currently, I feel like I have the desire, and I still believe I have the ability. You know, I don't feel like I'm lacking, and I really do believe I've gotten way better over the year. It's been a really good year for improvement and growth. So all that's left is actually being able to prove it, getting into that octagon and proving what I've been able to do. And if I could do that, I'm going to continue to fight. If I can't do that, there's obviously something missing. And you only get so many chances to fix it. It might be time to consider, walking away from this. I have nothing against guys who fight, for a long time. I have a lot of respect for these guys, but my desire was always to be champion. If I don't have the ability to be champion, I'm going to consider walking away for the sport. Not consider, but I would more than likely walk away from the sport.
Wow. Just wow. I mean, the self-awareness from Beneil Dariush, and it's honestly kind of sad because this is a guy that's had a 5-fight win streak in the UFC, overcame some adversity, then went on an 8-fight win streak in the UFC. And, hearing him say that he's always wanted a title shot is kind of disheartening, because every single time he got on the mic, that's the last thing that he would call for. So if Benny was a little bit more vocal, he probably would have got a title shot already, because he is that good and he is that skilled, man, in every department of MMA, the striking, the grappling, everything. But now, coming off 2 brutal back-to-back knockout losses, it's just unfortunate that Benny, I don't want to say it's unfortunate that he didn't do something uncharacteristic, right? Because the trash talk, that's not really Benny's style. He's a soft-spoken guy, but man, if he would have just turned up the trash talk for one post-fight interview, he could have got his title shot, and now it's probably never going to happen. So, man, it's sad, because Benny's always been one of my favorite fighters, but I got to give him a lot of respect for that self-awareness, not wanting to stick around past his expiration date. And I can only wish him the best at UFC 311 and beyond. Now, in some less than unsettling news, and before I show this headline, I just want to say, if you got kids in the room, now's probably the time to pause it. This is not something that we want to talk about, for anyone under 18. So, all right. Former UFC fighter Mateus Mendonca. Now, I'm going to show y'all what this article said from MMA Fighting. But the moral of the story is you better train with a goddamn cup and a mouthpiece. So, former UFC fighter Mateus Mendonca fractures penis in jiu-jitsu training. He said he felt an absurd amount of pain. I'm sure you did, brother. I'm sure you did. Like, he said, I was training with a teammate and he landed his knee on my penis. And I felt an absurd pain and went to the bathroom. I was in Sao Paulo the other day and my thing looked weird. It looked different. It has a lump. My girl told me to go to the hospital and they did an ultrasound exam. And he told me to go to a different hospital for an emergency surgery. And I guess they found out that it was fractured from there. Man, I cannot imagine the horrors of that, dude. Listen, I'm not a UFC fighter. I'm not even an MMA fighter. I'm just a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. There is not a single day I don't go to the gym wearing my cup and my mouthpiece because, you know, I can maybe go 1,000 training sessions without having a single issue. But all it takes is that one time where things go wrong, and in an area like that, you don't even want to go wrong once. So to all my friends, the fans of the show, and even fighters, guys, don't be machos. Protect yourself down there. Protect your mouth as well. And hopefully we can start preventing things like this from happening because, I mean, you know, there's things more important than fighting. And yeah, that you guys already know. You guys already know. So I hope Mateus Mendonca makes a very speedy recovery and it becomes a non-factor for him going forward. And wear your damn cup, kid. UFC middleweight Chris Curtis recently accused his upcoming opponent at UFC 311, Roman Kopylov, for having spies at his camp. Look at what Chris Curtis said. A couple weeks ago, 2 Russians show up looking to be a part of the team. After 2 weeks, they vanish as soon as Kopylov comes to town and are now training together. Scumbag move, Kopylov. Listen, if anyone besides Chris Curtis posted this, I might dig into them a little bit, but we know that Chris Curtis has a history of saying some off-the-wall stuff, but he does seem like a nice guy. So we'll just let it slide. It's just Chris Curtis, you know what I mean? But I don't really think that Kopylov had spies. I think that Extreme Couture, a lot of people view that as like a community gym. Yeah, the guys that live in Vegas, that's their everyday gym. But I'm saying a lot of people travel specifically to get training in at Extreme Couture. And it just happened to be that your opponent was doing the same thing. So people are spying on you. I mean, if you've watched one Chris Curtis fight, you've watched every Chris Curtis fight. You don't have to bring in spies to know that, hey, let's avoid this southpaw pocket boxer with really good takedown defense. Like, you can just watch a Chris Curtis fight to know that. You don't need to bring in spies. So, yeah, we'll let that one slide, Chris. So, former UFC fighter Igor Severino, known for biting Andre Lima in their bout and his only UFC fight ever, getting disqualified and immediately being released from the UFC, just got back on the win track in his recent fight at Octagon 65, where he took on the same guy that recently went 5 rounds with Felipe Lima. Igor Severino got the split decision win. Check out the attire he wore when it happened. This dude's out here with a Hannibal mask. I like the fact that he's leaning into the gimmick now, man. Like, hey, you're the dude that went out there, bit Andre Lima, got kicked out the UFC, but now you just got a very high-profile win outside the UFC. And plus, he's only 21, 22. He's just a kid. If he can put up a string of wins together, show that he's truly matured and that he's gotten past this, I think we could see him in the UFC down the line. You know, word on the street was that Andre Lima hit him with such a big elbow that this kid didn't know where he was, and he just went on autopilot. I guess autopilot for him is biting people. Probably going to have to work on that. But regardless, it's good to see him back on track with a high-level win outside the UFC. Still young. Get a couple wins together, and they'll probably take a look at you again, kids. So good job getting back on track, Igor Severino. Or should we say Igor Hannibal Lecter Severino. And last but not least, former UFC flyweight champion and future UFC Hall of Famer, Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, recently made a post on Instagram detailing that he's been checking his brain health regularly and he recently passed all his tests. You love to hear it. Check this out. So, Mighty posted, another year of checking on my brain health. Still looking good, boys. New Year resolution, no more sparring. Don't need it no more. Hey, man, big respect, huge respect. Not only are you advocating for fighters to regularly check what's going on upstairs, which I cannot praise enough, but the fact that you had such a long career, you're still in good health, which shows that, hey, technique counts for a lot, because Mighty Mouse had some incredible defense in his day. But now, you're getting close to 40 years old, and you're like, you know what, man, I don't want to spar anymore. I don't need to spar anymore. I know how to fight. I don't need to take shots to the head anymore. A big respect, Mighty Mouse, for that, because a lot of people look up to you. You're spreading big time awareness, and you're letting guys know you don't have to be like old school shoot to box, Wanderlei Silva and Shogun knocking each other out in the gym every single day and multiple times, in a day. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't got to do that stuff no more. It's 2025 now. Let's look out for our brains. So I will always keep it real. And shout out to Mighty Mouse for that. Well, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for checking out episode 5 of This Week in MMA. Episode 6 is dropping a lot sooner than you think, maybe tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe, leave me a comment, share if you feel so inclined. I'm truly, truly grateful for all your support. Happy New Year. And until the next time.